crazy dystopian stuff happening.
Cisgender this, cisgender that. Meanwhile,
Democrats went too far with this.
hello everybody, welcome to another week of the Beyond Parody podcast. My name is Dan Dillon, I'm your host, and I am joined by my co-host Robin.
Hi, everybody. I am so excited to be here.
Mr. B, our tech guru.
Welcome, family.
And our very special guest this week, a personal friend, Mr. Frank Turek.
Since when are we friends, Dan? I don't recall. I don't recall reaching out to you about that. I mean, please.
Well, you've covered up to the public my golf handicap for long enough, so I think that you're a trusted friend.
That's true, because I saw that you had to have your ball retriever regripped. That's how good you are. Uh-huh.
That is accurate.
You do know Dan.
Yeah,
That's the club he uses the most.
If there's water, I will find it. You know, have you guys seen that that meme? It's hilarious where the guy's on Mars and he's like, "You need to find water on Mars," and he's like got his iron or whatever. It's like, put me on Mars, we'll find water. It doesn't matter. We'll
Of course,
find
the episode of The Family Guy where he's playing with his wife. Have you seen that?
No.
Yes. Oh, that's a great clip.
Yeah, he tees off and he goes into the water and then she gets, he's all mad. He's throwing his clubs and then she gets up and he goes, she goes, "So I should hit it in the water?" And he goes, "No." And she goes, "So why is it there then?"
Yeah. Why did they even put the water there if you're not supposed to hit it? All right. So, Frank, you and I, we're friends, and we actually spent a little bit of time together just before you went out to Utah, where Robin is, for unfortunately what became a life-changing event, I think, for all of us. It's actually kind of surreal to think about the fact that when we were playing golf there, it feels almost like we were naive and in a different life. It's like the world changed so much on September 10th when Charlie died. And of course, you got you were caught up in all of this stuff because A, you knew him really well. You're his mentor, and B, you happen to be very prevalent in the videos that came out as well, right? There was the guy in the white hat theories that came out. How did that affect you when that happened? I mean, how are you still processing all this stuff?
Well, first of all, I didn't even know about the white hat thing until 30 hours after the murder, because after the murder, we were in our own little bubble at the hospital and then at the hotel and with the vice president and, and trying to get Charlie's body back to Phoenix. And so we weren't aware of all that. And it wasn't until we got back to Phoenix the afternoon after Charlie was murdered. So the next day, 30 hours later, did my wife say, "Do you know you're the subject of a conspiracy theory?" I'm like, "What are you talking about?"
Oh, man.
Yeah. "Oh, you're the guy in the white hat that was signaling the shooter." And I said, "What?"
And Seth and I both made an attempt, I think, to kind of get in front of that a little bit and say, listen, we know who this is. This is not a person involved in a conspiracy here. It's just, it's so crazy that that's where people go, though. And it's still happening, right? I mean,
sure.
How are you dealing with, because you're not officially a part of Turning Point USA, but how are you dealing with, have people reached out to you asking for advice? Because they've been the target. I mean, like, there are legitimately people out there. We don't need to say her name or their names, right? But we know who we're talking about.
I'll just call her Candace because that's her name.
There you go, yeah.
Candace O.
But how do you deal with this maliciousness that's just unbelievable to the point of, like, there's no concern or regard for a grieving widow, no concern or regard for grieving friends. Seth got caught up in this right afterwards as well, and he wasn't even present. No opportunity for any of us who knew Charlie to actually properly mourn him. It just felt like it was just, we were thrown into defense mode rather than being allowed to grieve. Were you able to insulate yourself from that a little bit?
Well, Jesus and the apostles call Satan a murderer, a liar, an accuser, a slanderer, someone that creates confusion. So we had a murderer. And then what did we have? We had slander, lies, accusations, and confusion. Gee, what does that sound like?
Yeah.
That's just spiritual warfare. And Satan was going to attack the situation after the most watched evangelistic event in human history took place, and that was Charlie's memorial service. You had, 75 people in the building. There were probably 30 or 40,000 in the building next to us. We had several 100,000 just in the area. And then there were 100 million people watching online. And the last number I heard, which was from November, was that 1.2 billion people worldwide saw some portion of that memorial service, where you had the president and everyone on down at least talking about Jesus in some context.
Yeah.
So of course Satan's going to attack that. Of course Satan's going to attack Erica, because Erica does only what a Holy Spirit inspired person could do, and that would be to forgive the murderer of her husband. Not that he doesn't deserve any consequence, he does, but she's not harboring any animosity because we're supposed to forgive. And secondly, bitterness doesn't help anyone. Bitterness is like drinking poison and hoping the other guy dies. You just need to give that to God, because God says, vengeance is mine, says the Lord. So in our world, we've had to get a security detail. So now when we go to a college campus, it used to be, it would cost us $5,000 with airfare and hotels and the videographer. Now it costs us $15,000 because we have to bring an entire security team with us. And we're actually going back to Utah Valley University next month.
Are you really?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we have to put a stake in the ground. We're not going to let Satan win.
That's amazing.
So that campus needs it, just like every other campus. Greg Laurie's already been there. He was there last month for a big crusade outreach. So ours won't be quite as big, but we're still going to go.
Well, they're having a sit-in today at UVU because they're having a career fair and Border Patrol has a tent set up. And so just today, they're having a big sit-in where all of the protesters are coming to sit with signs and not let Border Patrol set up a booth at this.
Wait. Are you saying that these people are trying to set up a border so Border Patrol can't get in?
Yeah, they're going to start checking
IDs.
IDs.
What's going on here?
Yeah.
Gee, what a tactic. Who would have thought of that?
They're going to see who's supposed to be there and who's not supposed to be there. And
so they do believe in borders then.
I have to share this post. It went a little bit viral. I put this up last night. I'm going to share this real quick on my screen. This was a post I made on our Not to Be Twitter account. This is a real quote from the CBS News interview.
I just saw this. This is amazing. And
my tweet reads, "This is my favorite cell phone in a while. They discovered borders and freaking love them." So this anti-ICE activist describes roadblocks and traffic checkpoints they set up in Minneapolis. Quote, "We are literally creating a place that we know who's coming and going in and out of our neighborhoods."
Wow. Why would you want that? Why would you want to know who's coming in and out?
Yeah, they discovered borders from first principles, right?
Wow. It's like Billie Eilish. She said, that we won't have these people here on stolen land. Well, in order for land to be stolen, someone had to own it. Right. There had to be a border to it, didn't it?
Right.
And wasn't there somebody that went to her house recently after the Grammy deal and said
she wouldn't let him in?
I'm a native. I'm a Native American. This is my land.
Well, her brother said that he knows that Billie said the truth because it's a bunch of rich white men who are opposing her. And I thought the Chumash tribe or the Tongva tribe sent her a message. Those aren't rich white people, buddy. You got to be careful who you're picking fights with.
Yeah, and we all know that truth is different dependent upon the color of your skin. 2 plus 2 does not equal 4 among the Native Americans, apparently.
Yeah.
Okay.
And speaking of immigration, I think this is a topic that is perfect for you being on our show, Frank. We had our speaker, Mike Johnson, just gave an incredible biblical response to the questions about the Pope's comments about immigration. And the Pope is basically going out there and saying, oh, it's this kind of false feeling of empathy, guiding everything, all your principles for Christianity, saying just no matter what, if there's somebody who's poorer than you or in need, you have to help them in any way that they want it. Is the kind of like fake Christianity that's out there. And that is not what the Bible teaches us. The Bible very clearly outlines nations, borders. And Speaker Johnson, I can't do anywhere near as good a job. I think, Frank, you could. I don't know about me, but let's listen to what Mike Johnson said, and let's hear what you have to say about this, Frank. I think this is brilliant.
Yeah. Pope Leo has cited Matthew 25:35 to critique Donald Trump's mass deportation agenda. how would you respond to Pope Leo in Scripture?
So you want me to give you a theological dissertation? All right, I'll tell you what, I'll post it on my website later today, but let me give you a quick summary. Borders and walls are biblical. From the Old Testament to the New, God has allowed us to set up our civil societies and have separate nations. Immigration is not something that's frowned upon in Scripture. In fact, it's welcome. We're to welcome the sojourner and love our neighbor as ourselves. But what's also important in the Bible is that assimilation is expected and anticipated and proper. When someone comes into your country, comes into your nation, they do not have the right to change its laws or to change its society. They're expected to assimilate. We haven't had a lot of that going on. When people cite passages out of the Old Testament, they say, well, you're supposed to take care of the sojourner and the neighbor, treat them as yourself, welcome them in. Yes, but that is an admonition to individuals, not to the civil authorities. The civil authorities are given authority under Scripture to maintain order. Romans 12, you want to do this? Romans 13.
You want to do this?
The civil authorities are God's agents of wrath to bring punishment upon the wrongdoer. And it says, if you do right, you have no fear of the civil authorities, but those civil authorities are necessary. It's a calling. It's a calling to maintain order in society, and we have not had that. When Biden and Harris opened the borders wide for 4 years, we had as many as 20 million illegals come across the country, and we all know many dangerous people, hardened criminals, child molesters, rapists, murderers, all the rest, terrorists who came into the country. We did not take care of our borders. Sovereign borders are biblical and good and right, and they're just, because it's not because we hate the people on the outside, it's because we love the people on the inside. We should love our neighbor as ourselves, as individuals, but as a civil authority and the government has to maintain the law. And that is biblical, and it's right, and it's just, and I'm happy to have this lengthy debate with anybody and any time they want to. I'll put this on my X page, the longer dissertation on that for you today.
That's pretty cool to see, right?
Mm-hmm.
From a public official, the ability to comment that in such an educated manner on those things, right, Frank?
Yeah,
What would you add to that?
Well, in that short period of time, I wouldn't add anything because I thought he did it brilliantly. But notice the principle that he is putting forth that so few even Christians understand. Christians don't seem to understand there are different commands to individuals than there are to governments. Mm-hmm. God established 3 institutions. He established the government, the family, and the church. And there are different commands to each one of them. Like, for example, people will say, what about turn the other cheek? Okay, well, first of all, what does turn the other cheek mean? Does turn the other cheek mean that if someone puts you in grave bodily harm, you have to let them kill you? No, it has nothing to do with self-defense. Turn the other cheek was meant to say that when you're insulted, you don't need to return insult for insult, but not when you're put in grave bodily harm. In fact, when Jesus was struck on the cheek, he didn't turn the other cheek. What did he say? He said, who struck me? Okay, because he was blindfolded at the time. Right. So that is a command to individuals not to escalate insult for insult. But if the government decided to turn the other cheek, we would have anarchy because the government role, as Mike Johnson just said, according to Romans 13, is to punish the wrongdoer in order to protect innocent people from evil. If the government does not punish the wrongdoer, you don't have civilization. Right. You have anarchy. In fact, my friend J. Warner Wallace, the cold case homicide detective, likes to put it this way, and he's absolutely right. Do you know what the foundational vocation for civilization is? It's law enforcement. If you don't have law enforcement, you don't have anything else. You don't have an economy. Why? Because you can't risk anything in a non-law and order society. You're not going to risk yourself. You're not going to risk your capital because it could be stolen from you or taken from you without consequence. Right. Without law enforcement, nothing else matters. And the problem here is, particularly in Minnesota and all this, is that these people are not just protesting, they're obstructing legitimate, democratically decided laws from being enforced. Right. That's lawlessness. That's exactly what Satan is about, lawlessness. Right.
Dan, I shared with you along these same lines, Allie Beth Stuckey has been doing really good work over on Instagram, which is where most of the ladies are. There are very few women, I hate to say it, on X. We're out there, but we're not. But Instagram is really where a lot of these women share stuff that is just so easily proven wrong. And she, Allie Beth Stuckey, Megan Basham have really been over there on Instagram trying to correct some of this misinformation. But she had this back and forth she posted on her stories, Dan. I don't know if you see it, but it made me laugh so hard because I'll just read it real quick. And it's exactly what you're saying, Frank. Somebody pinged Allie, and Allie knows her Bible. And this woman said, "Hey, are you aware that Mary and Joseph and Jesus were immigrants? And that would be classified as illegal in your definition. And Jesus being crucified was considered legal at that time, that Jesus was killed by the state and that he was a brown man who did not speak English, because I have read the Bible, especially the red words, and that slavery was legal." and Allie comes back and she just quotes scripture at this person, and she says Mary and Joseph were not illegal immigrants. She backs it up. They traveled legally within the same kingdom. They even registered for the census, Luke 2. The opposite of illegal. Jesus was killed at the behest of the Jewish people, but ultimately he gave himself up voluntarily, John 10:18. Also read Exodus 12:49. Judging by your she, her in your bio, you should also read Genesis 1:27 and Matthew 19:4-5. But here's the real kicker. Here's what the person came back at. Are you ready for this? This was so funny. They said, "I don't believe that the Bible is the word of God." So he essentially said, "I was just trying to use your book against you." But
so she comes at her using it against her, and then,
I believe it's fairy tales written by men for men who wanted to control people. So it's like, what?
So what is it? Is it?
Why do you quote the Bible if you don't even believe it? Like, what do you?
And notice what she just did. She just put out an Instagram or a tweet, whatever it is, using the Bible to try and control people.
Right.
You know, that's what she just tried to do.
Right.
Yeah, I do not need to read that fairy tale to know what's right and wrong.
The hypocrisy and the irony is out of control. But you know what Mary and Joseph were doing during the time of the census is actually the non-modern version of showing papers, kind of, right? Like, I mean, they were complying peacefully with the requests of the civilization that they were a part of, to show, to present themselves legally and to make that be known.
Right.
That is what all these people on the streets of Minneapolis and Minnesota are fighting against, is people having to show papers to people when they're being asked for them. And we're not just talking about people. I mean, Mary and Joseph weren't criminals either. I mean, like the people we're talking about that they're going after, ICE is going after, a lot of these people are awful criminals. They're criminals that prey on children. They're criminals that prey on women. And the fact that, like, you mentioned the word anarchy, and I talked about this on the show the other day. Like what we live in right now in the United States feels like we've shifted into this form of anarcho-tyranny, where there is absolute lawlessness for a portion of the civilization, but then there's also like really strict laws for the people who are law-abiding, right? So tyrannical rule over those who are willing to comply with the law, me and you and the other people who file our taxes and don't cheat on things and aren't out there kicking cop cars and being surprised when we end up getting shot. There's tyranny basically for us, because they're also taking all of our money in tax revenue to give it to the criminals to further escalate the issues of anarchy. Like the law-abiding citizens with our tax dollars are fueling our own demise, our own civilizational decay.
Right. That's terrifying. Well, that's chaos is the goal of Marxism. That it really is. The end goal of Marxism is to create so much chaos that you can essentially go in and take control while the plebes are running around. You can grab whatever you can. And you're absolutely right. Why are my tax dollars going to federally fund Minnesota,
And when you don't punish the guilty, you wind up punishing the innocent.
Right.
That's the problem. You see, when you don't pull criminals off the street that need to be pulled off the street, you're punishing the innocent. When you don't send illegals home, you're punishing the people who are legally waiting in line.
Right.
And obviously when crimes are being committed, it makes it all the worse. And the Bible's very clear on this. Do not treat anybody with partiality, whether they're rich or poor, whether they're foreigner or not, meaning you ought to treat them with blind justice. And by the way, the Old Testament has two different words for legal immigrant and what is known as an illegal immigrant. In either case, both of them, if they were in the country, would have to assimilate. Now, the Bible doesn't talk about deportation, but it does talk about driving people out of the land. who don't agree with Israeli values, God's values. I mean, that's all over the Old Testament, obviously. So, yes, we're to welcome the sojourner, but in the Bible, that's a legal immigrant. And also, we're supposed to have borders. We're supposed to maintain our borders. And when people say, I don't believe in borders, I say, do you have a lock on your door? I mean, you have a password on your bank account. You believe in borders everywhere.
Right. Just expand those out to a country.
Right. Yeah. And your land can't be stolen if someone didn't own it, Billy. Right. If somebody owned it meant they had private property and there was a border around it.
Right.
So, I mean, it's just
It's ridiculous. I served a Spanish speaking mission, LDS mission in the U.S. and worked primarily for 18 months with the illegal immigration population. I mean, that's the majority of the people I taught when I was a missionary. And I speak Spanish. I have worked a lot in my adult life in immigration programs and with the Spanish speaking communities. These many of them who come are amazing people with their families who want a better life, but it creates this really awful subclass of people who aren't legal and they're constantly anxious. I mean, I can't tell you how many times we would go to a door and we'd hear "La migra" because people thought we were immigration coming to, two ladies in blazers coming to investigate them. But it's a terrible way to live, and we have to have a system and an infrastructure for people who come to the country and want to be part of this. America is the greatest country in the world. I understand wanting to be part of it. I understand wanting to raise. I have 5 kids, and I am so grateful that I get to raise my children in the USA. Every day I wake up, and I am so grateful that we get to live in a safe, prosperous country like the United States. And I feel for especially the people who bring their kids here and want to have a better life, but it's a complicated system and you have to do it legally. You have to, or you're going to live the rest of your life in fear.
Yeah, and there are no caravans going to Venezuela. You notice that? They're all coming here.
Not now.
Okay, I wonder why that is.
And it's not just immigration either. There's a shocking clip. I guess this just came out. It's the first time I saw it. There's a shocking clip I'm going to show of a juror from the O.J. Simpson trial.
Oh, this is correct.
Admitting that the verdict was payback. It was, everybody knew he was guilty, and she admits it. I've never actually heard one of them admit this before, but
this is someone just released this?
I think so. This is the first time I've seen it. So let's watch this real quick. It's shocking.
Do you think that they're members of the jury that voted to acquit OJ because of Rodney King?
Yes.
You do?
Yes.
How many of you think felt that way?
Oh, probably 90% of us.
Wow.
99%? Did you feel that way?
Yes.
That was payback.
Uh-huh.
You think that's right?
This woman was a juror on the O.J. Simpson trial.
Is there a statute of limitations, I guess, on... I don't even know what that would be.
I think there is, actually. I think there is. I mean, because she is... I mean, are they admitting some sort of a misdemeanor, a crime, to say that they didn't take... This was not justice being served, right? This was revenge being served via jury.
Yeah.
Right? These are the types of things, and this is a jury. So this was how long ago was that now? 30 years ago?
Yeah, 1995. This is why my friend J. Warner Wallace says the trial is won or lost in jury selection. You have to make sure you have an honest jury, not a rigged jury like this one was. They were never going to convict OJ. They've admitted that. Despite the fact that his blood was found all over the crime scene and even on clothes that were at the crime scene and gloves.
But the glove didn't fit, Frank. The glove didn't fit.
Yeah, that's easy to explain because the glove had shrunk from all the blood on it.
He was just kind of doing this with it.
Yeah. And
Andy was wearing a glove under the glove.
Yeah, and he didn't want to put it on. He didn't want to touch it. We get that.
That's what they say. You never give the defendant control of the courtroom. And that was one of the biggest errors that they made in that case, was to let him perform in front of the jury.
But it wouldn't have even mattered. What this woman just said is that it wouldn't have even mattered. I mean, they literally, there was that one bloody thumbprint on the doorknob that they didn't take the fingerprint that I guess would have been, everybody says, oh, if they'd just gotten that piece of evidence, he would have been convicted. I don't think so. They could add video surveillance to this thing happening, and I don't think that it would have happened. You know, it was payback for Rodney King. That's what this woman said. And if they got the jury selection right, the prosecution gets the jury selection right, then they win. Then they win the case. Which, again, the reason I showed that clip and what we were talking about before is this idea of tyranny and anarcho-tyranny and anarchy, right? Well, there's lots of different ways for there to be anarchy. You see it in Minneapolis very clearly with people throwing bricks at law enforcement vehicles and things like that. But also it comes from within, right? And it's not just the juries, it's the judges. It's the judges in this country have been weaponized against the people. So a lot of the immigration laws are bad enough that they're not enforced in the first place. But then once they actually are enforced and the person ends up in prison, you've got all these activist left-wing judges just releasing them right back out on the street.
Which is why you have this issue in Minneapolis. You notice you don't have it in Tampa or in Miami or
Salt Lake.
Any other place, a red state, right?
Right.
It's because Waltz and Fry and Ellison are all releasing criminals who are illegal, so ICE won't deport them.
Right.
They should all resign because they are actually doing counter to what their number one responsibility is, and that is to punish wrongdoers and protect innocent people from evil. They're actually allowing wrongdoers to go free, which is punishing the innocent. They're doing exactly the opposite of what government should do.
Why do we think they're doing this? For votes?
Because they're very ideological. I think they can't give up any power at this point. Tom Homan, who I really like and I wish would just take over the whole thing. We can talk about Kristi Noem if we want, but he's trying to strike a deal and saying, hey, look, if you release the violent criminals out of your jails that we are coming to that ICE wants, we will withdraw ICE, a majority. That's the surge, and they're saying no. So it's smart. He put the ball over in their court. Why they're saying no? I think it's because they can't negotiate with fascists, right? When you create this paradigm where you call someone a fascist and you call him Hitler, you can't negotiate with them. You've boxed yourself into this ideological corner.
Well, first of all, think about this term fascist. People don't even know what it means anymore. They call Charlie Kirk a fascist. Yeah, because this is what a fascist does is he hands you the microphone and says, make your case, I'll listen to you. That's what fascists always do. By the way, if Trump and the Trump administration is fascist and Trump and that administration won a majority of the votes, that would mean that the majority in the country think the Democrats are worse than fascists.
Right.
Because they voted for fascists. It's just stupid name calling. And it's just pejorative. It's not true. We all know it's not true. It's ridiculous.
But they're doubling down on
rhetoric people go to.
Yeah.
Well, the obvious answer to that question that you proposed, Mr. B, is votes. Ultimately, it's power and it's votes. I mean, they are, and it all started. People are like, "Well, the fraud in Minneapolis is a big problem," and it's like, "Well, the fraud is a big problem," but the only reason the fraud's able to proliferate is because of all of these laws about asylum and the lax application of the term asylum.
Right.
You know, you get people coming from countries and they go back to those countries for vacation 2 or 3 times a year. These are not refugees. Like, these are not legitimate refugees, a lot of them, right? They're bringing these people in and they are serving the purpose of voting and tipping the scales the littlest bit that they need in the locations that they need them in order to maintain their hold on power. And the longer they hold their power, the more judges they appoint. The more judges they appoint, the more anarchy they can create. The more anarchy they can create, the more dissatisfaction with the government that they can create, and the more power that they can assimilate. It's like, it's this, I mean, it's brilliant. It is literally the plot of a Christopher Nolan film. You know, it's like The Dark Knight. You know, it's just chaos. It's just chaos for the sake of chaos, because that where there's chaos, where there's a void of order, people will go to the government seeking leadership in the way that they want, which is basically tyranny. That's what they want.
I think you nailed it, Dan. I think Waltz is the Joker. It's perfect.
Except less smart.
We have to have done a Photoshop of that, I bet now, right? I think that we have to.
I don't know. The Joker's a little too cerebral for Waltz. He's a nut job.
Now, shifting gears just the tiniest bit.
Well, I want to say one thing, though, Dan. I don't know if you guys saw this, the congressional testimony a couple weeks ago about what percentage of Somali immigrants after 10 years are still on welfare? Did you see that?
Yes, I did. Who was it? It wasn't Holly. Was it Josh Hawley?
Can I guess? Because I don't know the number.
It wasn't Holly. Hey, well, go ahead. What do you think?
87%.
It's close. I thought it was 78. It's above 75.
Wow.
These are immigrants after 10 years. Are these people assimilating? No. Who's paying for them? We are.
Right.
Can you imagine if somebody burst into your house, an illegal, just came into your house and said, "Hey, I'm not only taking your master bedroom, you're going to pay for my living expenses, and you're going to have to start living by my rules in this house."
Right.
You go, what? That's essentially what's going on here.
It is. I mean, it's a perfect analogy. That is exactly what's happening. I don't get it. Sometimes when I watch all these videos of things happening, like for instance, we went to London, I think it was 3 years ago now, and I really feared going.
You went to London, Stan?
I went to London, Stan. Exactly, right? So I had this idea in my mind from all of the videos that I'm seeing and I'm hearing about, stabbings and all this other stuff that like this, I'm going to have to really take security and everything like that very seriously, which I did. But when I got there, it wasn't quite as bad as I thought it was going to be. I got to admit, like the spin on the left and the spin on the right, the reality is somewhere in the middle. But I'm really wondering right now, like, what's it like to be living in Minneapolis? It looks like complete lawlessness. It's just like in LA back, a couple of months ago when they had the riots in LA. Like, is it really like widespread? Is this really like your average person's experience? Is the streets being shut down and just all of this other stuff? And if so, what are you doing staying there? You got to get the heck out of there. And
if you had a family?
I mean, if I had a family, I'd want to get them as far away from them as I could. But the thing I don't understand is like we already have lost the feeling, Frank, what you're talking about. You have to have a civilization of trust, right? Like I've already lost the trust. If this can happen even for short periods of time and it's not squashed, like I know the optics are bad for the federal government to go in and stop these uprisings. And I would say borderline insurrections. But if you don't do it, then you lose all the trust. That could just happen anywhere, right? Like you feel like that can't happen in the United States. You feel like people can't just say, this is our, what did they call it in Seattle? What was the name of the little
Chaz, the autonomous zone.
Yeah, you feel like you can't just have autonomous zones, which by the way, had very tight border control.
They always do. Dan, to your point, the saddest thing about all of this, and I have made this point before, if you live in Minneapolis right now, or any of these cities, Seattle, the people who can get out and can go to their summer home are the wealthy people. The people who can't are the minorities and the immigrants. And the people that the protesters are trying to protect. They are creating chaos for the immigrant communities who may just want to take their kids to school every day, but can't. They're people who can afford to go somewhere else do. Or people like during COVID, in our neighborhood, our schools all shut down in Salt Lake. We were the only district in all of Salt Lake. Do you know who took their kids to private schools and out of district? All the rich white people. You know who had to sit at home on Zoom? All the poor immigrants. And we had a mom show up with DoorDash one day with her, a Mexican woman with her 10-year-old son on a laptop in the front seat who was trying to do homework while she delivered DoorDash during COVID. And I thought, this is what they don't understand. Their stupid performative platforming of all of this stuff hurts the communities that they are trying to protect, and this
makes a nice transition to our next topic here, which is that's what liberal white women do. They go in and they think they're helping, right? They have the white savior complex, and they really do. They have the virtue signaling and the white savior complex, and then they actually end up hurting the people that they're actually advocating for. So this woman, I actually don't know who this is, but I'm just going to play the video because it's great, because she watches a couple clips of some what we call blue-haired breakdowns. Frank, we got some of those for you later too.
Blue-haired breakdowns, cool.
Yeah. So we're going to watch these, and it's the question posed here that is being answered in the video is what is really wrong with liberal white women? I think this woman has a good answer. I'd like to hear what you think about this answer, Frank. Let me share the screen.
Don't come on my page and say that people should be in this country legally. Don't do it.
No!
Jeez.
No! Shame! Shame!
He shot her because she was queer.
Are we f***ing great yet? Are we a great country? Is this what is f***ing great?
A lot of people are wondering right now how in the world a person's brain ends up like this, because this is not how healthy, happy people act. Let me explain. Liberal women are what happens when the natural female instinct to nurture and defend and care for gets misdirected away from families and children and misapplied to whatever the liberal cause of the weak is. See, women have an innate instinct to support and emotionally connect to vulnerable people. We are designed to be mama bears. And in the absence of a stable and healthy home and family, a woman will find a place to put all of that. The natural instinct to sacrifice yourself for your children gets misapplied in all the wrong directions. You want to know why so many liberal women are out there playing hero for criminal aliens and gender-confused perverts and cultures that hate them? It's because they believe they have identified groups of people who need them when no one else does.
I feel like that's pretty darn accurate. What do you think, Frank?
Yeah, that's Ali Bestucki's theory too in her book Toxic Empathy. You know, women have a nurture component to them that's needed that men don't have as much of that, and so if they don't have children especially, they tend to find a cause where they can do that. And J.D. Vance kind of brought this out in a humorous way during the campaign. He said, you know, you're probably not going to vote for me if you're a single woman and have cats.
Right.
Okay. Because your orientation is to always side with what you perceive to be the victim. And Allie's point is that they only look at a so-called victim on one side. They never look at the victim on the other. Like, say, for abortion, it's always the woman that somehow is the victim. They ignore that the baby's being torn apart in the womb and her parts are being sold by Planned Parenthood on the black market. They don't care about that, right?
Nope. Yep.
They're always looking at the one poor person that's trying to get into this country, and they have empathy for that person. And they never look at the 300,000 girls that have been sold into sex slavery, apparently, in our country that have gone missing under the Biden administration. They never look at all the drugs that come across. They never look at the terrorists that come across. They never look at the lawlessness that it results in. They never look at the housing prices go up when you have all these people vying for housing. They never look at the cost going up or the welfare or all these things. Are always looking at that one exception, that one person who they have empathy for, maybe rightfully so, but you need to balance it by seeing all of these other negative effects. It is not compassionate to open the border because it leads to all these other negative effects that far outweigh any good you get from allowing somebody to come into the country that needs to come in.
The example I always give, and I've had this conversation with women before because it's a really good way to frame it, is if a female friend is talking about empathy, and I'll ask, what is the most empathetic way to handle homelessness? This is a question that I think is really interesting to see how people answer. And they say, well, just let them be. Don't arrest them. Don't arrest them for sleeping on the street. They need a place to stay. And I'll say, all right, what if it's 20 degrees outside? Is it humane to allow them to sleep on the street, or is it more humane to arrest them and put them in a place where they can be warm? Involuntarily take them off the streets. And then you see that you were saying, Frank, there are complicated issues and there is nuance on all of these topics, but it becomes so black and white. Brown and black people need our help. Like you were saying, Dan, we're the white saviors. We have to come out. Half the time, the facts they have aren't even facts. The stuff I see getting shared on Instagram is wholesale bunk. The Don Lemon case is a good one. I got in a whole back and forth with someone about Don Lemon this week because they were wringing their hands, and I said, did you read the charging documents? There's a good chance that he kept parents from accessing their children. I can't think of anything more.
Well, they don't care about that. They care about the initial emotional reaction. It's the same thing with the kid.
But I'm emotional about if someone blocks me from accessing my kids, how is that not just hits at your most primal empathetic instinct? Why would you side
because
with
people are
Don
driven
Lemon?
purely by their political biases right now. Like the political bias drives their emotion. They see the picture of the kid crying, and they assume that ICE is ripping him away from his dad and causing the issue, whereas ICE is trying to actually come in and solve the issue, right? Like, I mean,
the dad abandoned the kid. That's why ICE had him, to protect the kid.
Correct.
By the way, did you see Josh Howerton, the pastor down there at Lake Point? He had a tweet out the other day that had at least a dozen propaganda videos or images that when you look at the whole picture, it's exactly the opposite.
Right. Oh, yeah. I love stuff like that.
Maybe we'll put that in the show notes, but you ought to see this because he goes through at least a dozen. Like one of them, just to give you one example, this happened probably 2 weeks ago, where there's this picture of this this minority person going like this away from an ICE agent who has a gun pointed in his face. And of course, the propaganda is ICE is targeting these people and they're being mean and they're Nazis and all this. But when you watch the video of what happened, this agitator actually grabbed the gun of the ICE agent. It wasn't a gun. It was actually a pepper spray gun, not a real, not a bullet gun. He grabbed it. And then the ICE agent had to pull it away from him. And as he pulled it away from him, the guy went like this. And that's the still they show you.
Right. Yeah. And does that mean that I think every ICE agent has acted virtuously in every? Absolutely not. And and I say it quietly as a borderline libertarian, I hold law enforcement to a very high standard, and I expect that. I think having body cams I don't know why we haven't had body cams.
But as Frank just said, though, I mean, like the body cams, just like with the O.J. Simpson thing, they do help most of the time. But when you have a civilization that's hell bent on seeing it one way, they're going to take the one screenshot from that body cam footage that makes that person look innocent. That's what everybody's going to see on ABC News. That's what everybody's going to see on CBS. That's what everybody's going to see. That's going to become the narrative. And then the truth will be put in the notes, the editor's notes.
Have you seen the stats on body cams, though?
The body cams have been great, and now they're trying to reverse the body cams. Now they're saying it's proliferating racism. The body cams, so they're trying to move away from it. Now, another story that's huge that deserves a little bit more of our attention and our time, but we got with limited time here. But one thing that we need to at least address is that we have the first lawsuit won by a detransitioner. This week, which is just going to open the floodgates, I think, and it already seems to have, right? Like they won $2 million in a lawsuit it was a double mastectomy, right?
Yeah,
and it happened.
16-year-old girl.
Yeah, and so I mean, that doesn't even seem like enough to me with the numbers that you hear from some other lawsuits. I mean, like these people are savagely dissecting these people's bodies, experimenting on them when there's not even, I mean, it's evil already to do this, but then there's not even agreed upon regulations to this evil. These are just people out here just kind of doing stuff like, oh, let's chop you up until you kind of look like a girl or kind of look like a boy. And people are finally starting to file lawsuits. The lawsuits are finally starting to come through. And all of a sudden you start having, okay, so we just have Minnesota Children's Hospital says they will no longer give puberty blockers and hormones to minors due to legal concerns, which it's not the right reason to not do this, right? But at least they're not going to do it anymore, right?
Right.
We'll take the win.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can you believe that though? They're not going to do it because of legal concerns. That's good enough for me in some instances, right? But
okay, so you win the game on a pass interference call, right?
Okay. On a football reference. I don't know about it.
At least we won. No, well, these people aren't going to change their worldview because they lose money. They're just going to protect themselves. But this has been going on actually in the UK sooner than here. The biggest UK gender clinic closed down a couple of years ago. Yeah, because they saw the writing on the wall that there is no way we're going to survive lawsuits on this.
Right.
And that's happening here, thankfully. Yeah. However, as Mr. B said, we'll take the win. And we've got to continue to talk about this issue because it is never care to sterilize a child.
I was thinking about this, Dan, kind of to your point. In the 80s, there was the smoking crisis among teens. Teen smoking was huge. And you had kind of the top-down government, Nancy Reagan coming out and saying, it's not cool. Do you know how they really got... I'm sorry, I'm talking about... No, not smoking. Drinking and driving. Drinking and driving was a huge problem. Do you know how they got rid of drinking and driving amongst teens in a large... They just started putting out ads that showed people getting mocked for drinking and driving. And they made it uncool. and then the teen drinking and driving rates plummeted. I think we're going to have to get to a point with the trans stuff where that becomes more of the messaging. Once the teens get the idea that it's not cool, and I kind of see
Well,
that.
I agree with you to a certain extent, but it also should just be illegal.
Well, yeah, absolutely. But as far as ideologically, the more it becomes uncool for teens to grab onto this ideology, because it was really cool for a while. Like, it was so cool to be queer, non.
Well, yeah, it's in Hollywood. Everybody's got a trans kid
but
and
if we
everything
can
like that.
create like messaging campaigns, it's one thing to say it's bad, it's immoral, or it's medically you're wrecking your life. You just have to tell the kids it's not cool anymore to be trans.
If only we could get a group of smart, funny people together to parody this stuff. Somebody think of that.
It's quite hard. It's almost hard to parody sometimes, though, because we've made so many jokes. But
it is. I mean, that's why our show is called Beyond Parody. Like, these things are so crazy that you can't. You can't even. Some things go beyond what we can even create headlines for on the Babylon Bee. But you said a second ago, Frank. Like, it's never cared to sterilize a child, and that's true. And what's even crazier, it takes it even to the next level. That makes it even further beyond parody. Is the fact that the symptom that they're treating here by sterilizing the child that they say is necessary is a symptom of the woke mind virus that they've installed in the child through our education system.
Yeah, good. Yeah.
They basically inject them with this woke mind virus that tells them that they're not who they should be. Then they say, "Oh, now you need treatment," and then they go and they castrate them. Right? Like, I mean, that's insane.
Children need to be corrected, not affirmed in their error.
Right.
Or especially when you're the one who's instilling the error in them.
Exactly.
Well, yesterday morning, I have a 3-year-old and a 1-year-old.
We just need to start saying this about it.
Wrong.
Okay.
It's wrong.
We got down on the ground, me and my babies, and we played puppies for like 30 minutes. We were crawling around, barking at each other, and it was super funny. Did I then go ahead and say that my 3-year-old boy identifies as a puppy? Like, it's just the insanity of the messaging with parents. Like, we have to have adults back in the room, right?
I'm going to give him a collar for his birthday.
Yeah, give him a collar and make him drink out of a dog dish. And I get that it's more complicated than that, and a lot. There's a lot going on mentally, but I think we're going to have a domino effect here, right? They've set up this house of cards that all rests on the bastardization of language and changing the definition of terms. Once we get some of these echelons, the American Society of Plastic Surgeons just came out and said they no longer. Once we get the American Association of Pediatrics to come out and denounce it, which they have been full-throatedly endorsing trans medical care, whatever you want to call it.
Follow the money.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Once they start getting sued, they will backtrack so fast, and we will see this thing kind of come to its knees. But
can I ask you guys something that is more of a principle that I've just been thinking about? I haven't thought this completely through yet. So
these are our favorite kind.
Okay. It seems to me that many of the causes that come up, particularly on the left, are based on exceptions rather than rules.
Oh, yeah.
And they are based also on anecdotal evidence rather than strong social science research.
Or feelings.
Yes. So, for example, let's go back to Minneapolis for a second. And you said it a minute ago, Robin, if you find a ICE agent that does something illegal, that person should be prosecuted. We'll agree with that. Okay. But here is what it seems to me is happening. You get these propaganda pieces, or maybe even some borderline cases like Renee Good and the other guy, Peretti. And what people do is they take those isolated examples and they say, this is true of the entire ICE population. All of the people who are in ICE or law enforcement are evil like these two people.
Right.
And first of all, they've already convicted them as being wrong. And then secondly, they said this applies to everyone. Now, let me give a parallel here. In the past couple of years, we've had several trans-associated people murder others. We had the trans person in Nashville.
Yep.
We've had in the Annunciation Church in Minneapolis, of all places, in August. And then, of course, the trans-associated person that allegedly murdered Charlie, right? Mm-hmm. Now, would it be fair of us to say that all trans people or people who identify that way are murderers?
Mm-hmm.
Obviously not.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But this is the kind of thinking that permeates many on the left. they get one example, even a questionable example, and they universalize that example to the entire population. Any social science researcher or anyone with common sense will tell you that's not how things work.
Yeah.
You don't take exceptions, even good exceptions, and universalize them.
Yeah, it's called the fallacy of composition, I think. But that's where you take a one part and define a whole from that part. There's some biblical stuff about that too, isn't there?
Oh, yeah. And by the way, the same thing is true when you go in the other direction. Like, suppose you say that you find that 10% of Democrats agree that assassinating Trump is a good thing. Suppose that there is a poll recently that came out with something like that. Okay. Yeah. It would be illegitimate for anybody then to take that complete data, that survey data, and apply it to an individual without evidence.
Right.
Oh, you're a Democrat? You're one of the ones that think it's okay to kill Trump. Right. You can't take group data and apply it to individuals in the same way you can't take anecdotal data and apply it to groups.
Right.
Without better evidence.
Right.
And this is so this
they
is
use
how
this
propaganda works.
They use that, though. I mean, that's the crux of all of their arguments, at least the start of them, right? Like, that's how the abortion argument started. The abortion argument started with, well, there's been this one documented death of a mother during a complication that could have been prevented if they had just killed the baby, right? Like, so therefore, everybody should be able to do this whenever they want to, right? Like, the therefore does a lot of heavy lifting in these arguments, but that's the crux of almost all of their arguments. It's the same thing with trans people in women's sports, because one guy was born confused or with somewhat shady genitalia. Therefore, if you think you're a girl, you can just compete with girls. Like, the reaction does not match what the statistics or anything like that show. No. They rule by exception.
Right.
And I mean, and they do it in such an egregious way. Like, it is over the top. The men competing in women's sports thing, because they just think that they're women. I mean, that whole Supreme Court thing, I would have loved to talk to you about that, Frank, when that was all coming out and is it KBJ or KJB? I always forget.
Ketanji Brown Jackson.
Ketanji Brown Jackson was saying all the dumb stuff that she was saying, even though she's not a biologist.
That's the dumb people everywhere.
It is, and it really is. Anyway, I think that we're already 53 minutes into this. So we're going to watch a Blue Hair breakdown. We're going to read a couple of Babylon Bee headlines, and we're going to do a quick couple of questions to end the show. Let's do it. Just so you know, I don't know if you know this, but I have been voted best dad in the galaxy.
Oh,
I mean, that's really hard to win it for the whole galaxy.
With stiff competition,
total stiff competition. That's good. Thank you.
I've been voted most likely to drink multiple things during an episode, which I have. I don't know if you noticed. I'm always switching those out. All right, so let's watch this.
French press right here.
This one's kind of dark, but this is. I mean, I don't even know what's going on with this woman's face. This is more than a blue-haired breakdown.
This lady put this video out to give a little context, because the video it's a little hard to follow because she's a crazy person. She is saying here that if an ICE agent knocks on her door, she has created a fantasy world that they are breaking down doors, arresting whoever, taking them, and then like assaulting them. And just listen to what it's psychotic.
I'm not going to take this woman seriously till she gets another piercing in her face. She needs at least one.
I really pray it doesn't get bad enough. But being a mom in America, I had to stop walking for this. I often think that if it gets to the point of knocking on doors, God, and like to even have these thoughts, it's like I'm literally separating from reality right now. If it comes down
Why is it cutting off like that? Why is it doing the little...
It's jumpy.
It's jumpy. Anyway, what this woman is saying is that if it comes down to it and they show up at her doorstep, I guess she said that she was willing to take herself and her children out, that they wouldn't be killed by ICE.
Yeah, she says it down the road, but yeah, that she will kill her kids and herself. I mean, is
that in the video? Does she actually say it?
Oh yeah, she said
it.
Okay,
I'll keep playing it.
Yeah.
Me taking out myself and my kids versus us being taken and harmed by ICE. Like, God help me, I did not want.
I mean, this is the thing that you deal with with these women who have that whatever that issue is, where they
syndrome,
Munchausen syndrome, by proxy,
motherly syndrome. You know, but you could argue that with all these piercings, she's very holy.
And she releases another video.
I regret we haven't done more puns with you today, Frank.
Right. She releases another video where she says, hey, people took this out of context. I was saying I would never do this. I was just, there's this crazy scenario. I'm like, don't talk hypotheticals then, honey, because you sound crazy.
In her mind, she believes that crazy hypothetical scenario is actually realistic.
Yeah.
She thinks that it's possible that they're going to come to take her kids away from her. I mean, none of it makes any sense at all, but they believe it because
propaganda.
Again,
it's propaganda.
The propaganda and the media in this country that is involved in propagating the propaganda.
Does she live in Waco, Texas? David Koresh, you know.
Maybe. I don't know if she knows where she lives, Mr. B. That's part of the problem.
What planet
that is part of the problem. So we have a couple of headlines that we're going to read, but first I'm going to do a 30-second question. So you have 30 seconds to answer this question. You don't know what it's going to be. The question is this. You are known and you were a mentor to Charlie Kirk, who we all miss and loved. You taught him many things. You were his mentor. But in a lot of ways, you know, from me knowing Charlie, I learned a lot from him. Did you feel like you were teaching him more than he was teaching you? And let me know, what did you learn the most from Charlie?
What I learned the most from Charlie is that Charlie was a bridge builder to people, and he could keep people who had different viewpoints on some issues together for the greater good. He said, I want to get 80% of what I want rather than 0. So he could keep people together, like, say, Ben Shapiro and Tucker Carlson, who obviously view the Israel situation in different ways. He could keep them together, and that's what the biggest thing we're going to miss politically about Charlie. The other great thing, of course, was he ensured that he made the gospel the number one priority, even in political conversations.
Yeah. I mean, 100%. Yeah, he had the ability to bring people together in a way that we're going to miss a lot. And I think that people don't realize at all. They didn't realize. I think they realize now just how much of the glue of our political discourse Charlie was.
That's right.
Holding things together on the right. The second he was gone, the wolves just started going at it. Like, I mean, it's crazy. He was holding them all at bay because Charlie was so smart. The thing that Charlie taught me, just if I'm to turn this around, and it's kind of funny, but like, you know, I'm an intelligent person, and I have a advanced degree, and I fancy myself.
I don't know about that. I heard that the college that you graduated from called you and said, "You're fired."
That was my brother, but
your brother. That was your brother. Okay,
that was my brother. But
that was sad.
Okay. So I consider myself an intellectually intelligent person, but I was shamed in the presence of Charlie. I was like, "Holy crap! You can know things this well." I had no idea.
You know, here's the thing, Dan. Here's the thing about Charlie. If he was born 250 years ago, he'd be normal.
That is true, right? Like, that's how I guess it would have been like talking with the founding fathers.
Yeah, you just think he was like Thomas Jefferson or James Madison.
Right.
He was so well read and schooled on so many
things.
But
he remembered things. That's my problem. I will read something, and then 2 days later, the facts of it have left my mind. The essence is there, but the facts have left. That his ability to remember and call upon details of the Constitution and of the scriptures were unparalleled, really. I mean, he wasn't just a speaker, but he could back it up with facts, and that's so important. And we need to,
and not just JD Vance has this too. Not just back it up with facts, but back it up with facts immediately. Right. There's a lot of speakers who are very capable and very smart, but under the pressure of a debate or under the pressure of having a microphone and talking to people at universities, they don't quite get their point across really well. Trump suffers from that a lot. Like Trump knows a lot more about the topics than he necessarily comes across in some instances. But he doesn't ever quite get to that meat that is just shuts down the other argument the way that Charlie was able to do it.
Yeah, both J.D. Vance and Marco Rubio are like Charlie in that regard.
Yeah, 100%.
And apparently Mike Johnson.
Johnson's brilliant. In fact, Johnson is very well schooled on the founding of the nation too. He's kind of an historian. I've seen some Bible studies. I once saw him do a Bible study with a guy on it, and it was like, wow. And this is before he became speaker.
Jasmine Crockett's pretty good too, guys.
Right, that's it.
That's the end. That's it. We can't go on.
Mr. B's been fired.
You're fired.
All right. So let's read a couple of published headlines from this week from the Babylon Bee. These are our forum headline contributions. These are our subscribers are actually submitting these to us. And when they are good enough, they get upvoted, and we actually publish them on the website. So I'll actually let you do the honors, Frank. Here, you can read these. This is from TD Loves You. You can read this headline if you want, Frank.
I love it. 214 House Democrats crush legislation to require voter ID. 218 yay to 859 nay. Now, people watching this show know enough to say that there are only 435 representatives in Congress. Right. But for people that don't, it's quite obvious this is trading on illegal voting in the Congress.
So our actual headline that we published was suspicious. Voter ID bill defeated in Senate by vote of 7 million to 53.
Oh, that's good. That's good. I love that.
That's good.
All right.
That's good.
We got one more here that was published this week. You want to read this one?
Tim Walsh appears from Den, predicts 6 more weeks of protests.
The picture on that one was so great.
Oh yeah, he's coming out of the ground.
Yeah.
I love the one from the week before where it said Trump dresses as a Muslim, so Europe will let him invade Greenland.
Yeah. We need humor and we need satire in these times. I can tell you that much.
Absolutely.
All right. So we now are at the section where Mr. B is going to ask us a couple more follow-up personal questions.
Okay, Mr. B.
Frank.
Wait, he was already fired. He's fired.
He's fired.
Right? He's out.
Fired.
He said Jasmine Crockett was good. Out.
That's right. So just pretend I'm Jasmine Crockett asking you this question.
Okay.
Frank, what do you do for fun that may surprise people?
What that may surprise people? I run intervals on a football field at 64. That may surprise people, but
you do that for fun?
I stay in shape. Yeah, I like it. That's how I stay in shape. Yeah.
Frank, where did you grow up? I don't know this. Where did you grow up? And let's go from where you grew up to how you met Dan.
Get about it. Oh, from where I grew up to how I met Dan? Well, I grew up in New Jersey, and then after
I'm also from New Jersey, but that is not where we met.
No, we didn't. I met Dan through his brother Seth, and Seth and I met. Where did Seth and I meet? That's a good question.
You guys probably met at something with Turning Point, right?
It may have been, but even prior to that.
I think I may have actually met you longer ago than you remember. I think I met you at a Turning Point event in like 2019, I think.
No, because I didn't know Charlie then. Charlie reached out to me in January 2020. I mean, I knew of him, but I had never been to a Turning Point event.
It was somewhere around then. I honestly don't remember. That's a long time ago now when you think about it.
6 years.
7 or 8, 7,
yeah.
almost 7 years.
7 years for 2019.
Yeah.
But I met Dan through Seth, and Seth said, I'm the better of the two. That's what he told me.
At what?
at bragging, apparently.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, Frank, what's the most awkward question you've ever been asked at a talk?
That one.
What color underwear are you wearing?
I'm actually wearing blue underwear.
Nice.
Ex officio blue underwear right now.
Nice.
My mom said, if I ever have an accident and it's white, it's going to look bad.
That's very true. Very good advice.
And Dan is better than Seth at having his name printed in his underwear, by the way. There's the answer to that question.
He is?
This is going off the rails right now, guys. I don't know. I don't know what is
We're
going on.
starting to get into his shorts now.
All right, Mr. B, what else you got? What else you got? Anything else?
Okay, Frank, what does a normal day look like for you when you're not traveling or speaking?
When I'm not traveling or speaking, I'm usually in this room I'm in right now, either writing a book or doing a podcast or annoying people on my team via Zoom. Yeah, that's what I'm doing.
I don't know what they're talking about.
Yeah, right.
I'm trying to get fired. I want to hear Trump one more time.
You do? You're here. You got him, man. He's there. He's
You're
right
fired.
here.
You're fired.
Yep.
Well, Frank, we really appreciate you coming on.
So great.
It's been an honor that the time that we have known each other, it's been an honor to get to know you. The world is very different from the time when we met. I mean, it's crazy the things that have happened. I really appreciate your voice. I really appreciate the fact that there are people out there that are willing to stand up for truth, that want to give people the opportunity at Turning Point USA to grieve, and to handle things that they need to continue to handle. I'm really looking forward to what the future holds for our friendship, and thank you for coming on the show.
Thank you so much. It was so great.
And same, I mean, the be and not the be are so important. I tell Seth this all the time, because if I make a point in a didactic way, it's not going to be taken as well as if you make a point in a funny way.
Right.
Right. When you make a point with humor, even people on the other side can see it. And so I think, and in the parody part of the be, and then not to be is not parody, but it looks like parody.
Right.
I mean, that's the way that people can wake up to the inanity. Is that a word? I just made it up.
Inanity.
Yeah. They could wake up to the actual war on reality that they're having. There's actually a war on reality. That's actually a title of a new book that I'm writing. It's coming out in September. There's a whole war on reality going on. What's that?
Nice plug.
Yeah, totally. Early.
You worked that in.
Nobody can buy it now. It's not until September. So, but all the proceeds from the sale of the books will go to feed needy children.
Yeah.
Mine.
That's amazing.
Okay.
I'm like, yeah, amazing.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
That's noble. I believe in that.
Because, I got a house on stolen land and I got to put a border around this thing to prevent it from being taken back.
There you go.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Thanks,
well,
guys.
Thank you for joining us, and we'll see you guys next week on Beyond Parody.
So good. See you guys.
See ya.